Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Over the past many months, I've been building this project and I've had several challenges and many successes. And over the past few streams, I've been preparing and setting up this project and going on a path to be able to deploy it on Kubernetes. That has been a very good success so far. So I want to continue with that mission in this video, and I hope it will be a successful one. All right, so let me expand my screen a little bit. Sorry for the delay today. I had a number of challenges this morning, but I hope you're all having a good evening, a good morning, a good afternoon, or even a good late night, depending on what time you're watching this, either during the live stream or after. All right, so the goal of this is to create a job, and this will be a migration job. This migration job will be responsible for running the database migrations. And what is a job according to Kubernetes or Helm? A job in this case will be a task which will perform a particular task. Okay, it will be a process rather which will perform a particular task until it finishes. Once it finishes, that will be the end. It won't behave like a deployment which keeps on running until maybe when you intentionally stop it or it fails due to some issue. But for this case, a migration job will keep running until, okay, until it finishes. And once it finishes, that will be the end. So you see here, there's another file called migration job.yaml. Okay, and migration job.yaml, okay, is where I'm going to define this job. So we have the first line. Okay, let me close this. That says API version. Okay, so migration jobs belong to the batch v1 core version. As simple as that. Then you can see that on line 2, the kind is job. In these other YAML files, we have kind deployment. This one is of kind service. This one is of kind config map. This other one is of kind secret. This one is of kind deployment. So today we are learning about a different type of Kubernetes resource, and this resource is called a job. Okay. Now we go on to the next part, which says metadata, which simply says information about this job. And the job has a name. Okay, the first information will be a name, and the name will be the release name, okay, followed by a dash, then migration. What is the release name? The release name is what we supply when we are deploying this using Helm. For example, if I say Helm template, okay, then I say, and maybe I specify the Helm chart and say Helm is in Helm / backend, okay, something like that. Okay, in fact, even before doing that, I can say Helm template, then put the release name. Actually, this is the correct syntax. It is Helm template. Then you put the release name arrow backend that we have been using in the past videos. So I'll try to be consistent. So arrow backend is the release name, and that release name will be placed right here. Okay, arrow backend dash migration, as simple as that. Then when we continue, we have what we can call the can I call it the annotations? Okay, sorry, I got a distraction here. All right, let's continue. So for annotations, an annotation is simply extra information. Okay, think of it as extra information or extra metadata. So I'm seeing the stream hanging somewhere here. Let me just confirm to make sure that everything is okay. Sorry. All right, I think this is now okay. We can now continue. So annotation is simply more extra information or extra metadata about this job. And this one for our case has hooks, okay? So hooks are going to simply tell Helm to perform particular actions at particular points. The first hook is Helm sh, okay, / hook, and says pre-install and pre-upgrade. What does this mean? Pre-install simply means that when we are deploying this job for the very, very first time, okay, then, okay, this job should happen, okay, for the very first time before we do something, okay, before we release, then this migration job should be applied for the first time. Okay, I'll repeat. Pre-install simply means before we do, okay, a release or a deployment, okay, for the very first time, this migration job should be run. Then pre-upgrade simply means that before we upgrade or update an existing deployment, then this job should be executed. As simple as that. Then after that, we have the next hook, the hook delete policy, with the value saying before hook creation. This before hook creation hook is simply a hook that says, okay, or is responsible for deleting the current migration job before the next update is done. As simple as that. But even that, once a migration job has successfully run, we can inspect the current migration job and see the logs. Okay. After that, when another migration job is going to be created, this hook will ensure that that migration job is destroyed or done away with, and then a new migration will be created, meaning we shall have a new container for it or a new pod for it. Okay, let's continue. The next is the actual spec. Okay, then this spec has another nested config saying backoff limit. So spec dot backoff limit with the value of 1. It simply means that we should have at most one retry. Okay, so the migration job will run at most twice. So the first time when it runs and it fails, okay, that will be fair and understood. The next time it runs, okay, it will be the first retry and the only retry. So again, I'll repeat. The first time it will try to do the migration. If it fails, then we shall have one more retry. So backoff limit simply is giving a chance to have one more retry. Okay, but remember, this one more retry will be on a new pod. Okay, and to confirm that, I'll just go a little bit ahead. Okay, look at line 13. Okay, line 13 says restart policy never. Okay, so backoff limit and restart policy will work together in such a way that when a container fails, okay, when a migration job in a container inside the pod fails, we shall not restart that container. Okay, the container will not be restarted, but rather we shall have, okay, a retry because of line 9 in a new pod. Okay, understand this. The retry will be in a new pod and a new container. Why? On line 13 we have said no container should be restarted in case it fails, and if that happens it will be in a new pod, and that will happen only one time because of the value of 1 in the backoff limit. Of course, this can be changed depending on what you want to do. Okay, I hope that's awesome. Now let's move on to the template, to the actual spec inside here. Actually, if you see this, you should now be familiar with all this syntax. Okay, right from the beginning, we have had similar syntax, okay? For the API deployment, the API service, the config map, the secrets, the worker deployment, they are all very similar, okay? So I appreciate that every time we go through this, it cements the concepts, okay? So if this is the first time you're watching this, I would suggest that you go back to the past, okay? Study what we have covered in the past 3 or 4 live streams, and it will add something unique to your understanding. All right, now let's go on and look at the template.spec, okay? So under template.spec, we have the auto mount service account token to false. And this simply means that Kubernetes, okay, should not mount a service token to the pods because Kubernetes does generate this service token. And this service token is used for authentication. When your application running inside the pod wants to communicate with the Kubernetes API, okay, it must authenticate before it's given access to that authentication. I mean, not the authentication, but it must be given access to the Kubernetes API. Okay, sorry, I got a distraction. Let me repeat this again. I was saying Kubernetes generates a service token. Okay, this service token is used for authentication when your application running inside the pod wants to communicate to the Kubernetes API. And to communicate with the Kubernetes API, you need a token for authentication. So here we are saying, do not mount this token to the pods because we don't need an unnecessary credentials to be given to the pods because we're not going to communicate to the Kubernetes API. We don't need that, at least for now. Even in this application, we don't need to do that. If that changes later, then we can say true, okay, instead of false. Then the restart policy, like I said, simply means that no container should be restarted upon failure. Then we can go to the containers section, which is very, very familiar by now. Okay, for containers, we have one called migration, and it will be the only one. On line 16, we have the image. Okay, following the same similar syntax we have been seeing. It says values.image.repository, and that comes from the values directory right here, or values dev, depending on what we're using. Okay, either in development or production. For development, we shall use values dev. For production, it will be values.yaml. So in values dev, in values, we have just a moment. Here we need values.image.repository. In values.yaml, we have values.image.repository. As simple as that. When we go to this other part, it says values, okay? Values.image.tag. When we go to this other side, we have image.tag from the values object. As simple as that. Image pull policy comes from values object dot image dot pull policy, which will be this. Okay, values dot image dot pull policy, as simple as that. So this is how we're going to be rolling going forward. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Let's continue. So I hope you see how important this is. We'll go to the other line, which is a command, and look at the command. This time it is different. It's pointing to Alembic. Okay, so this will start Alembic for us. And the argument, the first argument will be -c. -c means here is the configuration file. And the configuration file will be alembic.ini. So those of you who have been following this playlist from the beginning, I'm sure you know where the alembic.ini file is located and why we have it. Then upgrade simply means that apply migrations. Then head simply refers to the latest migration. It means apply the latest revision or migration. As simple as that. Awesome. Then we can continue. We have here the env, okay, or the environment variables, okay, and we have the only environment variable that we need, which is the database URL. Why? Because we shall need it for applying migrations. Okay, so here it says if values.secrets.create, okay, if it is true, again, values.secrets.create comes from the values Kubernetes resource or object, which will either come from values.yaml if we are in production and values.dev if we are in development. Okay, so in development, secrets.create is true. For production, secrets.create is false because we are going to supply a secret called backend secrets. As simple as that. So I will close this, okay? Close this one here too, okay? And let's now go through it. So it says, if values.secrets.create it is true, that means we're now in development, then the value for database URL will be the secrets.data.database URL. As simple as that. If, okay, if this value, okay, does not exist, then we shall have an error. How do we get an error? Because of this part that says required. I think, do you see required? Required, then is required, okay? So this is in between required. So we need it to be there, okay? If it's not there, then we shall have an error, okay? As simple as that. So at this point, simply checks and says that this value here is required, okay? And if it's there, then we print it as values.secrets.data.database URL. Actually, if you go to the values dev right here, you can see that we have secrets.data, then database URL. Of course, don't do this, okay? Don't leaks secrets in production, okay? Like you can see the secret key here simply says local development only, but it's not a real secret key, okay? This is just for development purposes and for demonstration and teaching. Then at the end, you say quote. This means the database URL will be put in two double quotes or in quotes, as simple as that. Why? Because Kubernetes expects quotes, okay? It expects the values or these environment variables to be in quotes, as simple as that. So for development, okay, the value will be values, which refers to the values Kubernetes resource. That resource is created from the values.yaml for production or values dev.yaml for development. Okay, then after that we have the else part. Okay, if values.secret is false, we shall have values from. So values from is a syntax which says pick values from another Kubernetes resource. And here we're saying from the secrets. Okay, this is the secret key ref. So a secret is simply an environment variable that is sensitive. Okay, so it will come from the secrets.yaml right here. Okay, and you can see that the kind is a secret. So in production, we shall pick a secret, and the name of that secret, okay, will be, okay, the values.secrets.existing secret name. As simple as that, okay? And also it is required. We enforce that requirement using this syntax here, okay? Saying required is required, okay? So if the secret name is not there, then it will fail, okay? So we need it. And the key is database URL, okay? So end right here marks the end of the if statement. So this is a very interesting configuration in Helm, okay? It will simply help us deploy a Kubernetes resource type, which is a job, resource type of type job, which will help us to run migrations before our application starts. And that's the goal, okay? Remember, and I think I should have mentioned this at the beginning, when you are building a project, okay? For example, this project that we're working on, and you change a column or you add a column or alter your database schema, you want your application to be served with these new changes. Or your FastAPI application, like in our case, needs that new column because it might want to update it or insert a row, okay? Or maybe retrieve a value from that particular column. Now, for that to happen, the database schema must be applied. The changes must be applied to the database via a migration. But if the migrations are not applied early, then we can face a failure, you get. So the correct order is for migrations to be applied first, then have your application running. Okay, that is the perfect correct order. Otherwise, if your application runs fast, okay, then it will fail because there are no new updates. The migration has not run. Okay, so first run migrations, okay, then deploy the worker and the API. And that's what the migration job we're working on right now is for. It is simply to install or run, okay, the migration job for the first time before deployment. Then later for every other upgrade, before upgrading the deployment or upgrading an existing deployment, it must, okay, run the migration job, okay? And running a migration job simply means running this command here, okay, to apply the latest revision or the latest migration, okay, to the database at this database URL. As simple as that. And by the way, if your migration maybe drops columns or your migration has an error or has issues, this does not save you from that. Okay. So every time you apply your migrations, make sure you study your migrations, review your migrations to know that is this migration updating a resource? Is it deleting a resource? Is it maybe breaking things? Is it actually working? Okay. Because this job will be simply to run the migrations. Okay. The effects of those migrations are not controlled by this job. Okay. So we can try it out now in the terminal. I can close this. Okay. And whether if you're enjoying this live stream, please like the video and share it. It helps a lot with people with the same interests like you finding it. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. I need to change screens just a moment. Okay. All right. So of course, the first thing is to ensure that our database is running. You can say docker compose -f compose.yaml, okay, app -d db. Okay, so you see it says container PostgreSDB is running. That is good. The next thing, as usual, is to ensure that our Helm chart is okay. It has no structural errors. So I'll say Helm lint. Let me magnify it a bit. Helm lint, then specify the directory where the Helm chart is located. And you can say -f to supply the values we want. And these are values for development, values dev.yaml. Okay, so everything is okay. After that, we can render. Let's say Helm template. Okay, I do this intentionally again and again so that we understand the commands. Once you understand it, you can tell AI to create for you this very fast. So I'll say Helm template, and template again is used to render Kubernetes manifests without deploying them. Then I'll say arrow backend is the release name. Specify the location of the Helm chart. -f for the values. Helm backend. Arrow backend. What is it? I think that is it. Okay, arrow backend -f -f again -show only templates / migration not migrations but migration job dash not dash but dot yaml. Hit enter. Okay, we have an error. It says Helm /backend is a directory. Yeah, I hope you see that issue. Okay, so what we need to do is simply come here. Okay, now do this. Okay, values dev.yaml. Okay, simple as that. So that was my mistake. When you do -f, you're specifying the values file. Okay, but I pointed to it, the directory, which is wrong. So if you go up, you can see the render is correct. Okay, we have the name as arrow backend migration. If you come down here, you have the images arrow backend local. Image pull policy is if not present. The database URL, I seeing it here. It is Postgres, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And again, this is for development purposes, okay, and illustration, not teaching. So don't do this, of course, for your production data. I'm going to show you how to do and deal with production data soon. All right, so what is up? My chat is getting crazy. Just a moment. Okay. All right. I think I'm okay. I was wondering what was going on with the chat. Okay. Now, since our Helm chat is now perfect, has no issue, we can actually create another tab. Okay. I'm going to use it to watch the job. So I'll say kubectl. So kubectl is the tool we use to interact with our cluster, kubectl -n. Okay. Actually, before that, let us do the upgrade. Okay. Let us do the upgrade. Excuse me. Flo is trying to get stubborn with me on a live stream. All right, let's continue. So let's do the upgrade. So the command is helm, okay, upgrade, and this will upgrade if we had an existing deployment, and we do, or if we don't have, we should do an installation using the --install command, and then we should specify the release name, which is arrow backend, and we shall be consistent with it. After that, we specify helm /backend as the directory where we have our helm chat. Then we shall give it a namespace, shall say --namespace, okay, arrow -dev, okay. But if that namespace does not exist, then we should create a namespace. I'll say create namespace, okay, space -f. You specify the values file, which is in Helm backend values dev.yaml, and hit enter. Okay, so hopefully everything's okay. Okay, it is taking long this time. Can you guess why? Okay, and there it is. It says upgrade complete. It says status deployed. Why? Because of that migration. But in this other tab, okay, I want to do some kind of watching. Okay, I'll say kubectl -n for the namespace. The namespace is called arrow dev. Okay, I want to say get jobs. I think you can put a comma and say pods, then watch. Okay, and hit enter. Says error, you may only specify a single resource type. Yeah, so I was wrong. So let me specify one. Let me say jobs. Okay. All right. So it says error backend migration complete. Okay. It says it took about 11 seconds and it was 56 minutes ago. That's okay. Now I want to clear this, okay, and run this one more time, okay, and go to watch. You see, it says running, success criteria meant, okay, complete. This is nice, okay. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, this is the time you like it. This is the time to like the video, okay, whether you're watching it now or after the live stream. So I'll do it again, okay. Maybe I can clear this, expand it. Since we're dealing with the terminal now, I can hit the watch. So you see it's complete. Then I'll come here, clear the terminal also, run the previous command. We run a deployment via Helm. I like this Helm tool, okay. I can't imagine the number of files we'd be having. So you see we have running, success criteria meant complete. And this is what I like about Kubernetes, that things are deterministic, okay. A plus B will always be equals to C, okay. If A plus B does not match, then, okay, if A plus B is not equals to C, then you have an issue, okay. So the desired state will always be matched to the actual. Otherwise, that goal must be reached. The actual must be the desired state. Otherwise, things don't work out, and it's clear why you're not working out. Yeah, so there we are. Okay. In fact, when you're watching, you can do the opposite. Okay. Let us do a kubectl get. Let's do get pods this time, and we watch. Okay. Then go back this other side. Okay. So if you look at this one here, error backend migration. Okay, it is completed. Okay, but the API and worker are running. That's the difference. Okay, so a migration job finishes at some point, but the API and worker are long running processes. Okay, migration job starts, performs its task, and finishes. That's why we see the status is completed while the other ones are running. So I'll clear this one more time and run Helm again. There we are. So if you go back this side, you see it was running. You see it began actually from pending, container creating, running, completed, completed. I think that this is what we want. Okay, and this is very, very good. Okay, a migration job should be completed. It should not stay in the running state. So again, if I close this and I clear and run the same command, you're going to see that the API pod is running, the worker pod is running, but the migration has completed, which is what we want. That is the desired flow of this. Okay. Then, of course, other things you can do, which I'm sure by now you know, but I'll read just in case people do not know, so that they can maybe learn and know about it. So I'll say kubectl minus n. Okay. Again, kubectl is the tool we use to interact with our cluster. Arrow dev. If you want to know how to create a cluster, we use the tool called K3D. It's very simple to use. Look at the past 3 or 4 live streams. You'll see it. So kubectl minus n arrow dev. Okay, we look at the logs. Okay, the logs of a particular resource. So that the resource could be a maybe deployment, but in this case we want a job. Okay, and the job is called arrow dash backend dash migration. Okay, in fact, I know that because of this. Okay, let me close. You may be wondering, how do I know it's error-bound migration? Because of this name here, this interpolation. Okay, I know that the release name is error backend and dash migration. That's how I easily know them without even having to find it out. But if you want to find it out, it's also very easy. You can, and I'll show you. So we see these are the logs we get. Okay, as simple as that. It was a alembic.runtime.migration. Okay, simple. And these were info logs. Or the log level was info. Then you can also do a description to get more information and say kubectl, sorry, minus n means the namespace, arrow dev, okay, is the namespace, and then we can say describe a job, okay, and the job is called arrow dash backend dash migration. Hit enter, okay, and you see we get a bunch of information concerning the job. If I go up, okay, you see a number of things. You see the name, the namespace, there's a selector, it creates a label, okay. We have annotations, which are simply our hooks, okay. Parallelism, completions, okay, completion mode, back off limit, okay, the start time, when it completed, the duration, and took 5 seconds, the pod statuses, okay. I think active, none is active, 0 already, okay, 1 succeeded, nothing failed. There's a pod template, okay, which is nice. In fact, we don't you can actually create a pod template, but with a deployment, okay, or with a job, it creates the template for you. You don't have to create it by yourself. Okay, so this is nice. Okay, says successful create and then a completed reason, which is very good. And right here you see a message saying job completed. Okay, nice. Right here, I think this at the very first top what I've selected says created pod arrow backend, then this random string at the end. So I'll clear this. Okay, so you can do anything. Okay, you can say, let's say you didn't know maybe the name of the job. Okay, you can say kubectl minus n arrow dev get maybe pods, okay, there you are. We have our migration pod, but it's completed. Or you can have kubectl get deployments. Okay, you see we only have 2 deployments. Why? Because a job is not a deployment. Understand that. Okay, then you can say kubectl get service. Okay, we only have 1 service. Okay, do you think kubectl get jobs will work? There we are, it worked. Only 1 job. So this is how cool Helm can be powerful, okay? And how you can enjoy deploying your applications on Kubernetes. It's very simple, okay? Very simple. Forget about this craze on the internet, people say Kubernetes is hard, Kubernetes is this. This is very simple. Now, again, the goal of this live stream or this video or what we're doing right now is to ensure that before our application is deployed for the first time, okay, before the API is deployed for the first time, we should have the database at its latest state. How do we have the database at its latest state? By applying the latest migration. This job is responsible for that. The pre-install hook will help us to install or apply our migrations for the first time before deploying our application. After we deploy our application, on the next upgrades or on the next updates, the pre-upgrade hook will make sure to deploy our apps, okay, or our API or our worker after the migration has been applied. Okay, but before it does that, the old migration or the current migration will be deleted using the before hook creation. Okay, so the current migration is deleted, then an upgrade is done, and this deletion happens on a new pod. Okay, the containers are never restarted. Why? Because of the restart policy, never. Okay, if a container has a failing state, it cannot be restarted. Understand that it will never be restarted. Okay, and in case we have a failing container, then we shall have 1 more retry because of backoff limit being 1, and that 1 more retry will happen on a new container. So I repeat, in case a migration fails for one reason or another, maybe the migration script has an issue, okay, or no database connection, we shall have 1 more retry on a new pod in a new containers instance. As simple as that. Okay. Why? Because of backoff limit. So at most, you shall have 2 attempts to run migrations. The first attempt and the second attempt, which is 1. So 2 attempts to apply migrations on a new container in a new pod. And this will happen for the first time before we deploy the API and worker because of pre-install. And then on every subsequent update because of the pre-upgrade hook. As simple as that. And then before that upgrade is done, we delete the current one and then roll out a new migration. As simple as that. I hope you have enjoyed this. So yeah, everything else now makes sense. I see nothing hard about this. Okay. As we grow, we're going to know trade-offs and when to do certain things and when not to do certain things. So this is the time to like this video, okay, and share it, leave a comment, and I want to see you in the next stream. I feel this has been successful. Maybe if anybody has a question, if you have anything to say, you can do it right now. Okay, I'll just give about a few minutes for that before I can end up, because this is a live stream. Okay, it's not a recorded video, so there should be opportunity to interact. So I'll come here in the watch and delete this, stop it, clear the terminal, and maybe end this terminal since we don't need it. Okay, and maybe keep only 1. So yeah, if you have any question, I'll be waiting just in 2 minutes and then I'll end this. Okay. Yeah. This has been really, really amazing. Rose Royce says, what is the next stream topic? In the next stream, we want to now start the preparation for deploying secrets in the CI and EKS. So EKS is a platform on AWS where we have to deploy Kubernetes. Okay, it will help us with an ingress controller. Yeah, so that's where we are going. Yeah, but ideally after this stream, I need to think. Yeah, just need to think, because my goal is to have, my goal has been to bring out structured pieces. Okay, step by step. Yeah. So the next time we're doing this, we need to get into that. Are we using Vault? No, we're not using Vault. We're using Doppler. Yeah, but the same concept applies. Yeah, because in the past I used Doppler. Yeah, but maybe I can change to Vault. Who knows? Doesn't hurt. Same concept, same thing. But I can just maintain Doppler just to keep it simple for everybody who has been. And when AI will introduce in the project, I actually did AI in the past. I did AI. I can't remember, but if you check the stream, but it was little. Okay, it was little. Many people have been calling for me to end this project. I don't know why. Maybe they're tired. But my goal was to create an AI agent. Okay, that interacts with users. Okay, and can help them, maybe remind them of their flights. Okay, send them emails, do phone calls. I don't know, to help them book flights. That was my goal. Okay, help them maybe email you your tickets to your WhatsApp or to your Telegram or to your Slack. That is something I wanted to do, but people kept on tension. I don't know why, but that's my plan. Okay, yeah. And one mistake I've done is estimation. Okay, many times I estimate that I'm going to end the project, then I later end. I know that. I mean, I realize that I have a lot of things to do. Like when I was trying to wrap up this project, about maybe 6 videos in the past, in my mind, I knew I was going to do Kubernetes in one video. Can you imagine all the things we've been talking about? I wanted to do it in one long live stream. Okay, do a live stream of like maybe 2 hours and wrap up everything. But then I discovered I would be just rushing. You get? Okay, I would be rushing. Okay, so covering all this in one video, okay, would be catastrophic. Okay, I discovered that because if you look at what do you call them, the metrics, okay, most people who are just starting to learn the things. So I decided to break it down in such a way that someone who's learning these things for the first time is introduced to Kubernetes and Helm in a simple way. Okay, they get to know what a deployment is, what a service is, and what it does, what a config map does, what a secret is, what a config map is, okay, what a worker is, okay, and the approach to it, step by step. Yeah, and I think if those who have been following can maybe appreciate it. Roy says, I'm following this project and learning new skills or new thought patterns. Yeah, that's humbling. I'm glad that you are learning from it. Okay. We are going for Argo. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So those of you who don't know Argo CD, it's a tool uh, that can help you with deployment. Okay. Especially in production. Yeah. Let me not get ahead of myself, but you'll see Argo CD. It's very simple to set up and it's very useful. Yeah, so we shall use Argo CD. I want to make this minimal, very minimal, okay? Yeah, but useful, whereby you can apply it in a production setup for your project, for other people's projects. So yeah, you will see that, okay? You'll see Argo CD, you'll see AWS EKS. At some point, I was trying to rush to catch up with my AWS limit because it expires in a few days for this project, but it's okay. If it expires, then I can just pay a few credits, okay, to help me with that time, okay, before I can now either migrate, because at the level where this project is, okay, running it in a compose.yaml with a load balancer in front of it or an API gateway, it is perfect, okay? Then later when the users become many, I can simply switch because I'll have the setup already prepared, okay? Simply switch to Kubernetes, okay? Set up the horizontal pod autoscaler, and yeah, Kubernetes does its thing. Let me see, where is this tab? Okay, I appreciate it, Rolls Royce, for being an active participant. Thanks for what you all provide for free. I appreciate. Respect to you for also following along. I mean, following along. Did I say following along? Wow. English wants to do me this morning, but I refuse to bite my tongue. Of course, you've not been following along. Many of you have been following, but I mean to say following along. Yeah, thank you for following along and appreciating in public. Okay, it really means a lot. It means a lot. So he says, and for now, do we use mock API for Amadeus? What you provided in GitHub? Yes, for now, for example, if you in an interview, you want to maybe demo it to your friends, to a potential employer, for yourself, yeah, use the Amadeus mock API. There you'll spend $0. Then there's also a friend we've been following this project with. He reached out to me actually recently. He's called Jeremy Okello. Okay. Big up to you, Jeremy Okello, if you're watching right now or the recording. So Jeremy went all the way and used DAFO. Okay. So there's that video where I talk about DAFO. If you want to use a real world mock, okay, you can use the DAFO API, but it's still the same thing. Okay. Only that DAFO mock API has way more data than ours. Okay. And they also have a payment thing that you can use instead of FastAPI. Yeah. So you can use that mock API for Amadeus, or you can use the DAFO. Okay. Only that DAFO will make you cry. Okay. DAFO has been catastrophic. I was working for a US client, and up to now, DAFO has not responded to us because we need a request to use their payment system. And this client wanted to use DAFO for both flights and payments. They didn't want to build a payment solution. But trust me, we waited and waited and waited and had to switch to other people, other providers in USA. So for demo purposes, DAFO will be very good. Trust me. Yeah. If you intend to go to production, I don't think DAFO will be good because trust me, you can't take all that time, more than a month to respond. Okay. In production, in case something breaks, I need the response in like maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes at most. Okay. Yeah. But if you're going to production, use Amadeus. Personally, I am going to use Amadeus. It makes perfect sense, and it's what I'm going to go for. If it's not Amadeus, I will go for Sabre. It's called Sabre or Travelport. Okay. Is there any way I can communicate with you regarding any ideas? Yes, it's okay. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn or email. It's very okay. Yeah. You can reach out to me. Uh, all right. So let me see what else. Okay, I'll just give a few more minutes for any question before I'll give 2 minutes, then we can wrap up this. And yeah, actually, after this stream, I want to quickly move out. Okay, then I'll get back to my desk and plan for the next stream. So yeah, you will see the next stream already prepared within the next 2 hours. Yeah, and then yeah, step by step we shall be there. So thank you, Royce, for being an active participant. You've asked good questions. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. Everybody else, have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I'll see you in the next video. Did I say did I say video? I meant live stream or video, whatever.